Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wealth and Christ Show, a show where we inspire the masses to become financially free without compromising their faith. I'm your host, Dami, and today we're going to have a discussion about Joseph in the Bible. And today I want to look at some lessons we can learn from Joseph's life, particularly when he came to Egypt, that we can apply to our financial life. The story of Joseph can be found between Genesis 37 till Genesis 50. And basically, just to give a summary, Joseph, he had a dream that he would be great, and he told his siblings. His siblings were jealous and envy. At first, they wanted to kill him, but eventually they settled for selling him, and they made his father think that Joseph was dead because the father loved Joseph so much. You know, he even gave Joseph this wonderful outfit or clothing, you know, to show his appreciation to Joseph. Fast forward, Joseph was sold from being sold to slavery. He did a lot of different obstacles, you know, being accused of wanting to sleep with being accused of sleeping with the Pharaoh's wife, or raping Pharaoh's wife. So now he's in jail, and the part I want to focus on is the way he's in jail, and he had basically had two people also join him in jail, a cupbearer and the chief of bakery, you know, throwing at bakes in the palace. And they had two separate dreams. He interpreted those dreams for them, and he told the cupbearer, you know, the one that will survive, that his dream that was that he basically told the cupbearer that he would restore in his place, that he would restore back in his place as the king cupbearer, while the baker, he would die, he would be hanged. And he told the cupbearer to remember him, you know, once he leave prison, and not to forget him. You know, fast forward, the cupbearer actually forgot about Joseph. He didn't remember the conversation him and Joseph had until the Pharaoh had a dream. He had an instant dream, and no one in his kingdom and no one in his government could um, explain. All the magicians that he asked to explain to him what the dream was, that was to give him a lot of disturbance. You know, when I gave him any kind of peace, they weren't able to explain. So fast forward, and this is you can see the story build up in Genesis 41, and I'll read how Joseph came into play and some of the lessons that we can learn from it. Just I want to go back a little bit, and I'm just going to explain to you the two prisoners, the baker and the chief baker, just to see how everything plays along. But like I said, you can read this whole story of Joseph from Genesis 37 all the way to 50. But I'm just going to be skipping around from Genesis 40 and upwards. But I'm going to start from Genesis. So I'm going to start from reading Genesis 40, verse 1. So sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker committed an offense against the Lord of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. And he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guards, in the prison where Joseph was confined. And one night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt were confined in prison, each his own dream, and each dream with his own interpretation. When Joseph came in the morning, he saw that they were trouble. So he asked the Pharaoh officer who were with him in the custody in his master house, "Why are your face downcast?" And they said to him, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." Then Joseph said, "This is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days, and in 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly when you were his cupbearer. Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrew." Hereby I have done nothing that they should put me into this pit. Goes on to tell the chief baker his interpretation. I had a discussion. The chief baker was basically he will be hanged instead of being released and being restored to his position. So now we're gonna fast forward to from verse 20 before I go on to chapter 41. So on the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph has interpreted to them. Yet the yet, verse 23, yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. So as soon as he was released, despite the conversation that Joseph had with the chief cupbearer, explaining how he wants to get out this pit, he wants to get out of jail. The frustration of him being here for something he didn't do for no reason, and the chief cupbearer forgot. But it was not too long after that the chief bearer remembered Joseph when a situation arose, which you can find in chapter 41, verses 1 to 8. And basically, like I told you, Pharaoh had a dream, and he couldn't understand the dream. So at this point, he's expressing his frustration, how no one can interpret his dream. Then his chief cupbearer said in verse 9, then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offense today. And Pharaoh was angry with his servant and put me, when Pharaoh was angry with his servant and put me and the chief baker in the custody of the house, we jumped on the same day, each having a dream with his own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with a servant of the captain of guards. And when we told him, he interpreted our dream to us, giving us interpretation to each man according to his dream. As he interpreted to us, so it came about. Verse 14. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said in verse 15, and Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have a dream, and there's no one who can interpret. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile. 7 cows, plump and attractive, came out the Nile and fed in the reed grass. And 7 other cows came up after, poor and very ugly and thin, such I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. Verse 20, and the thin and ugly cow ate up the first 7 plums, but when they had eaten them, no one would have known that I had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as the beginning. Then I awoke. And I also saw in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good, and 7 ears withered thin and blighted by the east wind sprouted after them. And the thin ears swallowed the 7 good ears. And I told the magician, and there was no one who can explain to me. God has shown to Pharaoh what he's about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty through all the land of Egypt. But after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of famine that will follow. For it will be severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will surely bring about it. Now therefore, verse 33, now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint an overseer over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grains under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the city, and let them keep it. The food shall be reserved for the land against the 7-year famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so the land may not perish through the famine. Okay. And Pharaoh said to the servants, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning as wise as you are. So verse 40, you shall be over my house, and all my people shall all order themselves as you command. Only as regard the throne would I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have set you all over. Going on to verse 47. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up food for the 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the city. He put in every city for the food from the field around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure, for it could not be measured. So, as we can see, a lot has happened in the few verses that I went over. One, Joseph has been elevated to the second in command under Pharaoh. He has a lot of power. His status has changed. He went from a prisoner to the second in command. He also helped Pharaoh put together a financial plan in order for Egypt to survive a famine. And there's a couple of lessons that I want us to take from this story, from this reading. There's 7 lessons that I want you guys to take from this story of Joseph. One thing that stood out to me, one of the first things that stood out to me about Joseph in the story is that he was a person of value. He provided value to the cupbearer when he was in prison. That's why Joseph was remembered when Pharaoh could not find anyone interpreted to the dream. So the first lesson or first thing is to be a person of value. So when you're able to add value to people's life, people will remember you when opportunity presents. Oftentimes we're always looking for opportunity, but one of the best way to guarantee that you'll always be welcome into a room where opportunity where you can change your life is by being good to people, by providing value to people. But if you're constantly being rude, you're constantly, being messy, starting rumors, being negative and not adding value to people when you interact with them, when opportunity comes, financially or not financially, they won't think of you. They won't remember you. That's what's gonna help you reach places, go to places that you never thought of. I can only imagine that Joseph didn't know that God was taking him to become second in command. God was working him, growing him up in a cell, through all the different challenges, so he can become second in command. And he didn't know how it was going to play out like this. 2 is be a person who's a solution provider. So even after he interpreted the dream for Pharaoh, we realize that he quickly provided Pharaoh a solution to the problem. And we can find that in verse 34 of chapter 41, which basically said, let Pharaoh proceed to appoint an overseer over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food, all these goods, these years that are coming, and store them up, grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the city, and let them keep it. Verse 36, that food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so the land may not perish through famine. So you can see he provided solutions to Pharaoh in order to solve the problem that Pharaoh was dealing with, or he will eventually deal with. So that was the second lesson. The third thing we go on to, he was a person who made it happen. He was not a person who only just gave out good ideas or solutions. He was also the person to implement it. And we can find that in verse 47. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered all the food of these 7 years, which occur in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the city. He put in every city the food from the field around it, and Joseph stored up grains in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, because it could not be measured. So we can see that not only he gave Pharaoh the solution, but he also was one to implement it. Oftentimes, many people are always giving us advice and things of that sort, but they're not willing to help us implement those solutions, whether it's for our business or just for us to become to reach our goal of becoming financially free. Another thing that I want to highlight is that one good deed can change your life. Because of Joseph's good deed to the cupbearer, is the reason why the cupbearer, remember, you just need one opportunity. You just need to speak to one person. You just need to walk into one room that can change your life financially. Joseph went from the prisoner to second in command. His clothing changed. Um, Everything about him changed. The resources that he had available to him changed. The power, the respect, all that changed. So that's why we have to treat every opportunity, every person that we come in contact. We got to treat them well. We have to treat them to the. We got to treat them to the best of our abilities. Treat them well to the best of our abilities. You don't know what opportunity can come from you treating someone very well. You don't know how the person may be able to bless you, how the person can elevate you, or recommend you for certain positions. How the person may want to invite you to business ventures. You know that some people or people you don't know, are working years and hours, putting so many hours into to get that position, to get that opportunity, but they aren't able to get that opportunity. But you, because of your good deed, you because of your kindness, and constantly providing value to people, will be the reason why opportunities are presented to you. Will be the reason why you be invited into rooms that you couldn't think of even exist. You invite them that you can change your family tree financially and every other aspect for life for years to come. And to the financial aspect, one thing we can take away is that nothing good lasts forever. So if you're winning in the stock market, if you're making money in the stock market, if you're making money in real estate, if you're making money in crypto, if you're making money in your business, you know, none of that is going to last forever. Everything comes to an end. As you can see in this case, it was 7 years for Egypt. They had done abundantly, and the best time to prepare for a turmoil, for a downturn in the market, in the business, is when things are going well. So that's the next lesson. The best time to prepare for an economic downturn, for things to slow down, is when things are going well. So when you start making enough money, when you start making money that you couldn't think of that you would make, that's the time for you to save more. That's the time for you to invest more. That's the time for you to put away more, not spend more, because there's going to come a time where that money is not going to be flowing the same way. It's going to come a time where the opportunity is not flowing the same way. It's going to come a time when the customers are not coming the same way. And that's why it's important when you have the customer, when you have the attention, when you have all these opportunities coming to you. Remember that there's going to be days where times are going to come where things are going to slow down. There's going to be time when things are not going to be the same. And this is the best time to save. This is the best time to position yourself, for the future. It's the best time to lock up, use different tools that can secure your family for generation to come. This is not the time to blow your money away. This is not the time to spend money like there's no tomorrow. This is the time to, of course, enjoy, but also be mindful that your enjoyment does not put you in harm's. That, as you can see, we go back to verse 38. 36. It says that the food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that is also occurred in the land of Egypt, so the land may not perish through famine. And just to put in perspective, a lot of people we may know, whether it's the music industry, athletes, in business, and just in life, they reach a goal, they become very respected in life, they make a lot of money, but because of your lack of discipline when they're making a lot of money, lack of discipline, all these opportunity and customers, they think is never going to end. And one thing I know, life is cycles. Today's cycles, you may be winning, you can be making millions, thousands of dollars, but the next cycle, next season may not be the same. The next cycle, you may be struggling to find opportunity. You may be struggling to find a customer who sees value in your business to want to even purchase it. No business continue to just be great. You know, no, but everyone goes through turmoil of ups and downs. Life is all about ups and downs. And if you prepare yourself you prepare for the downturn, you prepare for the economic downturn, the recessions, the pullbacks, all these different things that happen in business that are negative, and doing a good time. This is the time to put things, go to the drawing board and set things in place that can help you survive the down market. Even going back to COVID, we see that companies that had great savings, that were managed probably, was able to survive through COVID and even able to survive past COVID. Some companies are still, still facing the effect of COVID. They haven't caught up to, haven't caught up. And as a result, they are closing down. So when things are going great, remember to always think about tomorrow and save for tomorrow. Plan for tomorrow. Um, 'Cause you don't know how good this run will last. So basically, I just basically just told you guys 5 and 6 together. And lastly, you only need to make it once. You only need to make it once. Like you only need to make it once. Like reach financial freedom once. Become rich once, and it's all about how you manage your wealth from there. It's all about how you steward your wealth from there. A lot of athletes, they get the opportunity of making millions of dollars a year, but after 4 or 5 years, after they done playing the sport, a lot of them are broke. Same thing with musicians. They make a couple of millions, a couple of good tracks, but after that, their time, where they no longer, what book can slow down, you know, book can slow down, and you see them, struggling to make ends meet. Even for people who have great business, work and have great businesses, you know, when the business is they're no longer able to run the business or can't find someone to sell the business to, you know, they run into the same thing, you know, and as a result, they have to file bankruptcy. As a result, you know, they live in paycheck to paycheck. And even for people who may not ever own a business, may not ever be an entrepreneur in any aspect, musician, artist, you know, for many people, they make good money starting young, or they get an opportunity where they're making good money, wherever age they find in their career, wherever they find themselves in their career. But instead of them saving, instead of them investing, and planning for tomorrow, realizing that this won't last forever, they get caught up in wanting to get the nicest car, wanting to get the nicest house, wanting to show off to people, that they realize that tomorrow is coming, where the money won't be the same. The money won't have that same impact, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're in positions, they find themselves in positions where they can't retire. They're forced to work, they're forced to work. They're forced to like do things in their old age that they don't necessarily want to do. You know, becoming financial free, it gives you the opportunity to, in order to decide what you want to do. That's why financial free is so important. This is why I believe it's important, especially as a Christian, for us to become financial free, because it gives opportunity, give us opportunity and chances to commit ourselves more to the will of God, more to things God has caused us. Give us more to donate to certain causes, to give more of our energy to causes that mean a lot to us. But we're only able to do that if we're not being great stewards of our finance. Like as always, I hope this bless you guys. I hope this encourage you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Stay blessed. Peace out, guys.